10-minute speech.
We're ready for all of it.
Yeah, right.
Commissioner, how
How
are
are
you?
you? Oh, I'm just kidding. Is this radio?
Radio International.
Right, with a face like mine, this is where I ought to be. Got a face for radio. Okay. Welcome.
Mike, in the big room you talked about autonomy and how
Oh, there you go. Okay.
you talked about autonomy. Just sort of, can you elaborate on what autonomy means to you and what your specific goals for it are?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Someone asked me earlier today. You know, the word is sort of an auspicious kind of word. It conveys different meanings, and I think the simplest way to explain autonomy is to say that 65 institutions that are represented by 5 conferences want to have the ability to put student-athlete well-being at its core and at its focus, and to use that philosophy as the foundation for the enactment of legislation, rather than having the institutions, various institutions' self-interest at the core. So I think that's a, you know, that's a very good question. It's one that I really appreciate the opportunity to answer, because the focus is not on us having autonomy. The focus is on our ability to enact legislation that has student-athlete, you know, well-being and student-athlete interest at its core.
Mike, the conference has been so progressive under your term in terms and on so many levels, and yet from a conference scheduling perspective, we see the other conferences moving ahead to 9 games, 10 games. Well, when can we expect, and we add teams, when can we expect to see the conference expand from 8 games to 9?
Well, first of all, I don't agree with how you characterized it. I don't consider playing 9 games moving ahead. It's playing 9 games. You know, there's no inherent advantage that makes anybody better because they play 9 games. I think what we do, when I think about, and there are different points of view, and I appreciate yours, which is different than mine. We, in effect, think about schedule strength in terms of 12 games. 2/3 of your strength of schedule are your conference games. So we believe, with the depth and strength of our league, that we have a unique strength of schedule for 2/3 of our schedule. Now, what about the other third, right? Or it's been third, or whatever number you want. We said, okay, we've got 4 schools already playing 9 games. Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky. All right, now we're going to make sure that the rest of our league play, for lack of a better term, 9 games. So we play 9 games. And we, you know, I said today that our teams are playing Notre Dame, Michigan, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Kansas State. I listed a whole bunch of them. That's just some of them. So, if you're going to measure our league by the number of games we play 9 games.
Commissioner, back here in the peanut gallery.
Yes, sir.
I'm afraid that you may have heard a variety of questions on this before, but your thoughts on the progress of getting the SEC network seen across the gamut?
Yeah, good question. I have been asked that by my neighbors and by a lot of other people who aren't in this room. First and foremost, with ATT Uverse, and this is a point to be emphasized, with ATT Uverse and with Dish, the SEC network is available to everyone. The SEC network right now is available to everyone. Now, that would mean that for some who don't have AT&T, UVerse, or Dish, you would have to change providers. For those of you who would prefer not to change providers, but of course you will, if by the time we launch, we are in serious conversations with most all providers, and I can assure you that there isn't anybody in this room who has a provider we're not in serious conversation with.
Commissioner Slive, when I talk about you on the radio, I say you're the kind of guy speak softly and carry a big stick. You know how to get things done, right? So I'm wondering, when you do step down from your post, heading up the SEC, when you look at student athlete welfare, what do you hope that looks like, if you can paint a picture for us?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, our scholarships are based on full cost of attendance. That all the issues relating to health and safety have been implemented, that those who are uniquely talented have the ability to get timely and important information about their future in a way in which they can't now. I would like to see mom and dad come to our campuses for an official visit with their sons and daughters so that they can get to know and understand the decision that their sons and daughters have to make. I'd like to see mom and dad go to a bowl game if they can't afford it, we can help them. I want to make, we've just now changed the rule on meals. We were fussing around with silly rules on meals, and we've got that fixed now. But I could go through a laundry list, but the bottom line is sort of a segue from the first question of the day, which is putting the student athlete in his or her interest at the forefront.
Well, your answer to Rachel just about covered what I was going to ask.
But good, you don't have to answer.
Well, I just wanted you to expound more just a little on the full cost of attendance. Is that something? I mean, you've been talking about us with that for a couple of years. Is that something that you see on a conference-wide? Is it going to be varying from school to school, or how would that work?
Yeah. That's the reason I'm hesitating, because I think there's really a legal question somewhere in there, and so I want to be respectful of that issue. But at this point in time, we've already started our internal discussions about how to do this. There are lots of different ways to do it. So I'm going to suffice it to say that our institutions are talking about it, and we haven't made any decisions yet, but it will be the first item up. If autonomy is granted, it is something we will try to get resolved between August 7th, if the board votes for it, between August 7th and January.
Got time for one more question.
Mr. Slive?
Right.
Can you tell us, I guess, your expectations for the first college football playoff and your thoughts on that as that's coming on, at the end of the season?
We're pleased about where it is. I think one of the things that's most important to me is that it's been determined that the best teams should be in the 4-game playoff. We moved. Since we remember Auburn was 13-0 in 2004, and that's when we began thinking and talking about this. And of course, while we were trying to do it, we went ahead and won 7 straight national championships. So people say, "What are you doing?" But bottom line, 4 spots are better than 2 spots. And so I'm pleased with it, and there were a lot went into it. I'm pleased with it. It took us a year to do it. Something I think you folks have wanted, is something that the fans have wanted. And, like everything else, things are evolutionary. The NCAA issues that we've been talking about, they're evolutionary. The growth of the postseason is evolutionary. How we deal with our own bowls, as I mentioned in my remarks, is evolutionary. The only constant in life is change, and or the other philosophy is, if you're not making progress, you're falling behind because nobody can stay in the same place. So I think all of these indicate to me progress that is important to the game.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.